Meeting of Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. I am Councilman Mike Bonin, the chair of the committee, joined today by my colleague, Joe Buscaino of the 15th District. And we are going to get underway. Could we please read the public comment instructions?
Yes. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-750-5079 and then press the pound key. Press the pound key again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lid. Just a housekeeping note to start. City Attorney's Office still has some work to do on the taxi cab items. So items 10 and 11 will be continued to our next meeting, which leaves us items 1 through 9. We'll go to public comment in just a second, but Mr. Buscaino, after public comment, I was going to recommend items 1 through 6 and 8 for consent consideration, just to give a heads up. All right, do we have any public comment?
We do.
Mr. Bruins, take it away.
Okay. First caller. First caller, please unmute yourself and identify yourself and which items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, Rick Fields, General Manager for PR and Ambulance, item number 9.
Okay, you have 60 seconds. You may begin.
Private ambulance is facing critical challenges that no one could have foreseen. The issues are serious and jeopardize critically needed ambulance services. The 911 system is now calling on our ambulances for help. Disruption to the well-balanced and effective blend of 911 and private ambulance would certainly have an immediate impact on the health and well-being of the communities that we serve, and none more so than the residents of the city of Los Angeles. The pandemic has changed the EMS world and is more expensive and more complicated than ever. Since our last rate increase, our costs to operate in the business in Los Angeles have gone up over 40%. Minimum wage in LA alone has gone up nearly 30%. Costs to hire during a historic EMS staffing crisis have greatly increased. Vehicles, insurance, and fuel costs are increasing to unsustainable levels. The ambulance infrastructure in LA has historically been one of the strongest in any major metropolitan area of the country, in many ways because of the LA City private ambulance ordinance. But the system is stressed to its near breaking point. Without an immediate rate increase, services will suffer and the residents of Los Angeles will suffer. We need help, and I want to thank Councilmember Blumenfield for introducing this motion and urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next caller. Go ahead and identify yourself and which items you'd like to speak on.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, honorable council members. My name is Chad Druten. I'm the president of the Los Angeles County Ambulance Association, representing 32 of the county's 36 licensed mobile health care providers. I know your time is valuable this afternoon, and I'm going to keep my comments very brief.
Okay, 60 seconds, you may begin.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. We've been without a rate increase for over 5 years. And one is very much needed. The DOT and Transportation Commission agreed to a 53% increase 2 years ago based on their careful analysis and cost increases and other relevant data, including the minimum wage adjustments and cost of living and transportation index. The report they prepared never made its way to the council. The DOT asked it to be returned to them. Since our last increase, costs for our industry have increased by over 50% on average. Some of our providers have already gone out of business, and others are about to stop serving Los Angeles City residents. We're at a point of crisis. It's a crisis, it's a true emergency because of the extra burden that's been placed upon us by COVID, and we urge you to approve the increase that's been put before you on item 9.
Thank you. Okay, next caller. Please identify yourself and which items you'd like to speak on.
My name is Melissa Harris. I'm speaking on behalf of Nine. I am the founder of AmbuServe Ambulance. Our industry is in a crisis, hemorrhaging resources and unable to meet current service demands. We are struggling to retain our workforces, overtaxed and exhausted. We are losing first responders due to burnout and low pay. The Omicron surge has put our life-saving industry on life support. The extreme shortage of first responders is real. EMS schools have been closed for over 2 years, causing an interruption of applicant flow. We haven't had a rate increase in 5 years. We must still attract new candidates and invest in our current workforce with competitive wages. Wages represent 75% of our overall operating costs. 5 years ago, the minimum wage was $10.50. Today, it's $15. Our costs are at an all-time high: labor, fuel, insurance, and medical supplies. We are currently dealing with extremely high call volume, and staff is working double time to meet the surge in hospitalizations as it's unsustainable without relief. We are fearful that the residents of LA will suffer when they need an ambulance the most. Please support this request for an immediate emergency rate increase. We are underfunded, struggling to keep ambulances on the road amidst the rampant surge. Thank you for prioritizing our heroes.
Thank you. Okay, next caller, please identify yourself and which items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, I'm Andy Perrine. I'm just doing a general public comment. Yeah, I'm gonna call in and say, we don't have a lot of complete streets. We have out in Mar Vista, where I live, a wonderful example for only about maybe a mile, a quarter mile. Sorry, distance isn't my friend right now. But surprisingly, right where it ends, we're seeing tons of accidents, and we're seeing tons of accidents on other streets throughout the neighborhood. So whatever you can do to make sure that the Complete Streets program, is rolled out citywide as much as possible, would be great. Even if DOT staff, for whatever reason, are slowballing it, please do hold their feet to the fire there. Because honestly, the biggest thing for, people just existing in proximity to cars, is we have to be safe from these very, very fast death vehicles that hurtle around us for people to get to where they need to be. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, and please feel free to follow up with our office offline. Okay, next caller. Go ahead, please identify yourself and which items you'd like to speak on.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Leon Slomovic. I'm president of Taxi Worker Association of Los Angeles. Just wanted to make sure that I understand correctly that items 10 and 11 will not be considered or discussed at today's meeting.
That is correct.
I appreciate it. I want to thank the councilman for deferring action on these items. I think they deserve a part of the discussion, and we think the regulations that are being proposed need to be closely examined, and a mechanism to ensure driver wages is in place before the existing franchise system is eliminated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next caller. Please identify yourself and which items you'd like to speak on.
I'd like to speak on public comment, please.
Okay, you have 60 seconds. You may begin.
Yes, at 9800 Laurel Canyon Boulevard, it's a 1-hour parking. We have 2 catering trucks there that take up the whole time, over an hour, and block your sight when you're trying to pull out, which is very dangerous. So that needs to be looked at. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There is one more caller in the queue. Please identify yourself and which items you'd like to speak on.
I am from the Workers Association. I'm a taxi driver. I 11 I may. The new rules that coming up for approval is not convenient for taxi drivers. We would like to end it. We have issues on this new. Don't the oversight the city council to be eliminated. We don't want it to be handled by DOT and taxi commission only. It is the appointment for the mayor. So we like this thing to be resolved and be extended as according to the existing rules with the franchise. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chair, that concludes public comment.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Buscaino, as I mentioned prior to public comment, I was going to recommend items 1 through 6 and item 8 for consent approval. Do you have any objections?
No objections, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So, Adam, do you need us to take a vote, or is that good?
That's good.
Okay. All right. So items 1 through 6 and items 8 are approved. 10 and 11 have been continued. That leaves 7 and 9. Let's go to item number 7.
Item 7 is a motion Bonin Krikorian relative to extending contract number C-127028 with MV Transportation, Inc. for continued operation of the City Ride Dial a Ride program under the current terms and conditions until no later than April 1st, 2022.
Great. Thank you. Kari or Chun, give us a quick summary, and I believe you have some amending language we need to approve.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So we would like to amend the language to say authorize the Department of Transportation to extend the existing contract with MV Transportation, Inc. C-127028 for the continued operations of the City Ride Dial a Ride program and adjust the sliding compensation rate as attached, consistent with the new collective bargaining agreement for its drivers effective February 2nd, 2022, with no increase in the council-approved budget and no increase in the contract ceiling until no later than April 1st, 2022, subject to the approval of the city attorney as to form and legality. The hourly rate will range from $97.3 to $229.13, depending on the level of revenue service hours. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Buscaino, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Recommend we approve with the language provided by DOT.
I'll second.
All right. So without objection, that's the direction of the committee, Mr. Lid.
Very good. Approved as amended.
And that brings us to item number 9.
Item 9, motion Blumenfield Rodriguez relative to a proposed temporary rate schedule for private ambulance services in the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, thank you. For everybody listening, this is an important item. We've heard testimony from ambulance companies, but they're having a hard time keeping workers, and we're losing the potential for private ambulance service in the city of Los Angeles. That's a very important issue. At the same time, it would be not unexpected that people would also have concerns about raising ambulance rates in the middle of a public health crisis and a pandemic. So need to get a couple questions answered on this today. And so I'd like to have LADOT come to the virtual table. Jarvis, is this within your portfolio?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let me just get a few things clear. The city has the rate setting authority for private ambulance services. That's correct, yes?
Yes, it is. That's
All
right.
right. And traditionally, the city has set those rates based on objective factors and a certain process. Is that correct?
That's correct. We would get a survey to all of our providers about the services that they're conducting within and outside the city of Los Angeles. We take about a week's worth of data and we compile that along with statistics from the Bureau of Labor, as well as CPI, gas taxes, and other publicly available data to determine what the next rate should be.
Okay. We heard a lot of testimony from the ambulance companies, either verbally today or in writing or through their representatives. Um, uh, they're expressing a lot of frustration that rates haven't gone up in quite a while and are not keeping pace with their costs. DOT, though, is in the midst of this process. Is that correct?
That's correct. We sent out a survey back in October to begin the process of collecting the data so that we can prepare the reports and make the changes to the rates based upon whatever data we receive.
So in your rate setting process, that you're basically just waiting on that information before you can move forward?
That's correct. We need some type of baseline data in order to make a determination as to what the rate should be moving forward.
And how many ambulance companies are there?
We should have about 29 permitted. There's, I believe, 35, 36 within the county, and 29 of them are permitted within the city of Los Angeles.
And how many of them have responded to the rate survey so far?
We only have 2 who've responded so far. And so we are getting some information related to, some other costs, but they're not, but no responses to our actual survey. We've only had 2 responses to the survey.
Has this been a problem in previous cycles?
It has been. We made this attempt in 2019 and we received no responses. And in 2017, which was the last time they had a rate increase, we had received 7 responses.
Okay. I mean, my take is this is serious business. This is a serious issue. To the ambulance companies listening, you have raised some serious concerns. But for us to be able to do this, we can't just, my opinion, I'm just one of 14. We just can't pick a figure out of the air. We got to actually do it through the metrics here. So to 27 of the 29 of you, we need you to return these surveys so that DOT can have the baseline so that they can move forward on this process. If you want what you want, you got to give them what they need. How quickly, Jarvis, once that information is returned, can you move forward?
Once we get the information, we can prepare a report within a week, 2 weeks tops.
Okay, that's pretty quick, and we'll schedule the item at the soonest possible committee meeting and do a placeholder so it can go to council quickly. But we do need the ambulance companies to step up and respond to the surveys. I don't know otherwise how we just pick a number out of the air. Mr. Bruscaino, do you have any questions or thoughts?
Just talked about the time limit events. Since, in 2019, the report was tabled, correct?
That's correct. It had gone in front of the commission.
So how long has
You have really
how
bad
long
connection.
has the
looks like we have lost Mr. Bruscaino. It was a pretty bad connection. He was going in and out. Why don't we just hold on just a second to see if he's able to hop back on. I see him hopping back on. Mr. Bruscaino, are you back? We can tell you are there and that you are making a sound, but being able to make out actual words, not quite yet. We got about 2 syllables of whatever you just said. Okay, looks like he's dropped off again. We will hold just one more minute. Jarvis, is there anything else you wanted to add while we're holding on?
No, nothing additional at this time. Just other than that, we have been working hard on this. We've tried to bring in multiple stakeholders to this process. There was some consternation about the rates. This is always a difficult process, and so we have worked with the ambulance companies, with the hospitals, and we're just trying to take in as much stakeholder input as possible as we move this forward.
Got it. Mr. Bruscaino? And we lost him again. Okay. I don't think we're going to be able to continue with Mr. Bruscaino because it doesn't look like he's. Oh, well, we'll do this last try. Otherwise, we'll just continue the item. Joe, you there?
Yeah, right now.
A little bit. Yeah, we're not able to hear you, Mr. Bruscaino. We're getting a couple syllables at best. What we will do then is I was going to recommend we continue the item until the next meeting, giving an opportunity for the taxi companies to complete these surveys and DOT to get to work. Given that we can't.
Can you hear me now? I'm okay with that. If that's your direction.
Okay, cool. Yes. Let's do that now before we lose you again. Thank you, Jarvis, for the report. We will urge the companies to get you the data as quickly as possible and appreciate your commitment to crunch those numbers and come back so we can get a number that everybody can feel comfortable with. And we can do what needs to be done to make sure that ambulance services is preserved in LA. And again, we will do a placeholder for council on that as well when it comes back to council so it can move fast. With that, I believe that clears the desk, does it not?
That clears the desk, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody.